Hello and welcome to this episode of the Toronto Maple Leafs via GM, and this is going to be a bit of a different episode, as this is going to be the regular season recap episode. We will be going over all of the points scored, or the players, along with the goalies, along with some awards for all of the players, and at the end of the episode will be the playoff bracket. So I hope you enjoy, and I'll get right into it. So starting off with players 21 to 17, Richard Panik only played 10 games and only recorded 1 assist. Mark Barberio played only 5 games but picked up 2 points after picking him up just before the trade deadline. Roman Polak was a good shutdown defenseman in the bottom 6, picking up 7 points in 79 games. Leo Komarov, not a very good season at all, 9 points playing on the third line. He needs to improve if he's going to want to be on the team next year. And Stefan Robidas, he had a fantastic season. Not necessarily a whole bunch of points, but he had a great plus-minus rating of 17. Now players 16 to 12, Matt Fratton only played 33 games and picked up 10 points. Carter Ashton on the fourth line played 60 games and picked up 11. Morgan Rielly, not a very good season for him, only 14 points in 78 games. David Booth, a very disappointing season playing on the third line, even getting some second line time, only picking up 15 points this year. And Daniel Winnick, a pretty solid season on the fourth and third lines, but only got 17 points. Now into the top 10, Peter Holland, fourth line center, just outside the top 10, picking up 20 points on that fourth line, very good for him. Mike Santorelli, a good season for him, 15 goals and 20 assists on the third line. Jake Gardiner and Dion Phaneuf right by each other, only 1 goal difference between them. And Joffrey Lupul, in 10 less games than a lot of other players, picked up a solid 42 points playing on the second line. And now 6 through 2, I won't show you the number 1 because I would give it away for later for the awards. But Cody Frangen, a fantastic season, picking up 44 points. Chris Stewart, he was a huge pickup at the trade deadline, flipped him for David Clarkson, picking up 55 points this year, finishing in the top 5. Kadri, a good season, improving on last year's totals, picking up 6 more points. Tyler Bozak, a huge season, 73 points for a first-line center. That's really good. And James Van Riemsdyk, he picked up 83 points as well. Now for the goalies, James Reimer, not a very good year. 2.66 goals against and a .908 save percentage. Bernier, though, he had a fantastic season. 34 wins, 2.15 goals against, and a .923 save percentage. And now onto the awards. Starting off, we will have the Rick Vaive Award, awarded to the highest goal scorer for the season. And the nominees this year are Tyler Bozak, Phil Kessel, and James Van Riemsdyk, all of our first liners. And not surprisingly, Phil Kessel wins the award with a whopping 46 goals this year. That's a fantastic number for him, as that's exactly what the Leafs originally acquired him to do. Picking up 46 goals, almost at 50-goal plateau, maybe next year for Phil Kessel. Next up is the Matt Sundin Award. This award goes to the highest point scorer for the year, and the nominees are James Van Riemsdyk, Phil Kessel, and it says Nazem Kadri there, but it should actually say Tyler Bozak. That was an error on my part. And the award goes to Phil Kessel with 103 points on the season. He had a crazy year, turned it on at the end of the year. And in second and third was Van Riemsdyk with 83 points and Tyler Bozak with 73. Next is the Borrovsky Award, and this award goes to the player with the highest plus-minus on the year. And the 3 for this year is Phil Kessel, once again, Tyler Bozak, and Dion Phaneuf. And the award will go to Phil Kessel with a plus 30 rating. Phil Kessel is just cleaning house in the award show this year. Bozak with a plus 26 and Phaneuf with a plus 20 also rounded out the top 3. A very good year for Phil Kessel, as you can obviously tell. A very intriguing award this one is. This is the Frank J. Selke Award, which goes to the player with the lowest penalty minutes with 60 plus games played. And so the nominees this year are bottom 6 players Daniel Winnick and Peter Holland, along with top 4 defenseman Morgan Rielly. And the award this year will go to Peter Holland with only 2 penalty minutes and 80 games played. The games played had to be the tiebreaker because Morgan Rielly only picked up 1 penalty as well, and 2 penalty minutes, but he played 2 less games, and Daniel Winnick picked up 4 penalty minutes in 79 games. So there you go, Peter Holland, picking up your first award as a Toronto Maple Leaf. That was also the first award of the night to not go to Phil Kessel, and this one obviously will not either. This is the Domi Award, awarded to the player with the most penalty minutes on the year. And the three nominees are Dion Phaneuf, Stefan Broda, and trade deadline pickup Chris Stewart. And so the award goes to Dion Phaneuf with 112 penalty minutes. Stewart and Broda were close behind with 104 and 100 respectively, but Dion Phaneuf, 112 penalty minutes sitting in the box. That's more than a full game our top defenseman was sitting in the box. Moving on from the statistical awards, we go on to the Tim Horton Award for the best defenseman on the year. And so the nominees are Dion Phaneuf, Cody Franzen, and Jake Gardiner. And the award will go to Cody Franzen in a surprise win over Dion Phaneuf. Franzen put up 44 points, the most by a defenseman this year, but also played solid defensively and will be a big piece of the Leafs heading into the playoffs. Good pickup for Cody Franzen. Surprise win, but definitely well deserved. And the second last award of the night is the Turk Broda Award. Next year the award will be changed to the Johnny Bower Award, but this award goes to the best goalie of the year. And the three nominees this year are Jonathan Bernier and James Reimer, who both played on the NHL squad the entire year, and Garrett Sparks, who was the starter with the Toronto Marlies. And the award this year will go to Jonathan Bernier. Now this award wasn't very surprising, as Bernier was the main starter all year, except for that little injury patch he had at the end of the year, and hopefully he will be ready to go for Game 1 of the playoffs. And the final award of the night is the Doug Gilmour Award, and this is the most important one. This goes to the Team MVP, and the nominees for this year are Phil Kessel, James Van Riemsdyk, and Jonathan Bernier. And the award this year goes to Phil the Thrill Kessel. Not surprising for this one, as Phil Kessel dominated the second half of the year, shooting right up through the scoring sheets in the NHL. He even won the Art Ross this year. So congratulations goes to Phil Kessel, the Toronto Maple Leafs team MVP for the 2014-15 regular season. And now here's the 2014-15 Stanley Cup Playoffs bracket. So now in the East, it is going to be the Rangers versus the Islanders in one last Subway Series at Nassau Coliseum. That should be a very good matchup. I think that the Rangers will move on, however. Pittsburgh versus Montreal. This should be a very good matchup because it'll be Crosby and Malkin scoring versus Price's defense. I think I gotta take Pittsburgh moving on, though I don't think Montreal's gonna have what it takes to beat Pittsburgh. Detroit versus Tampa Bay. This should be a very good matchup as both these teams are even. I think this one goes to 7, and I think Tampa pulls off the upset. And now the Toronto Maple Leafs, our team, will be playing, of course, we win the President's Trophy, and still somehow we end up facing the Boston Bruins in the first round of the playoffs. So, I think that we will be able to move on, but it should be interesting to see how our players and how everybody does facing against the Boston Bruins. I'm just hoping that we don't go out in terrible fashion, because that would just be disappointing and we'd have to make a lot of changes. But it looks like it'll be good playoffs in the East, a lot of good matchups. But moving on to the West, it is going to be Minnesota versus Colorado, Chicago versus Anaheim. That's going to be one heck of a matchup. Los Angeles versus Vancouver, and San Jose versus Dallas. I think Dallas is a real wild card heading into the playoffs because they have Sagan. That should be very good, along with Jamie Benn. But I also see Chicago and Anaheim. Always those guys are favorites, along with Los Angeles. So this playoff should be very interesting. There's a lot of intriguing matchups. And I'll see you in the next episode for Game 1, Toronto versus Boston. I hope you'll be staying tuned to see that one. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.